Most relationships don't end because of cheating. They end because of money. And the worst part, most people ignore the financial red flags until it's too late. If you've seen even one of these signs, you need to pay attention right now. Some of these come from real-life breakups and financial disasters people never talk about in public. You might think your relationship is rock solid, but if the foundation is built on financial secrets, it is only a matter of time before it cracks. Number 3 is the one that quietly destroys trust, and almost everyone overlooks it until their bank account is empty. Money isn't just numbers on a screen, it is values, control, and trust. When you enter a serious commitment, you aren't just dating a person, you are building a financial future with them. Whether you are 18 or 50, your partner's habits will eventually become your problems. If they are drowning, they will pull you down with them. Let's break down 5 financial red flags that most people completely overlook before it's too late. Starting with the one that looks harmless but is actually a ticking time bomb. Red flag number 1 is when they avoid all money conversations. In the beginning, it feels polite. You don't want to bring up salary, debt, or credit scores on the third date, but as things get serious, that silence becomes dangerous. If you try to bring up a budget or ask about their long-term savings goals and they suddenly change the topic, get defensive, or shut down entirely, you have a problem. This is a major indicator of a lack of financial compatibility. If you can't talk about money, you can't plan a future. It is that simple. Silence about money usually means hidden stress or hidden problems. They might be hiding 5-figure credit card debt, or they might just have no idea how to handle a paycheck. Either way, their refusal to communicate prevents you from being a team. Imagine trying to build a house when one person refuses to look at the blueprints. Eventually, the walls are going to be crooked. I've seen couples who were together for 5 years, only to find out right before the wedding that one partner had a credit score so low they couldn't even qualify for a basic apartment lease. That kind of shock destroys the romantic illusion instantly, but this next one looks like love until it becomes a cage of control. Red flag number 2 is financial control disguised as care. This is one of the most subtle financial red flags in a relationship. It starts small. Your partner might say things like, "I'll handle the bills so you don't have to worry about it," or "I'm just trying to help you manage your money better because I want us to have a good life." On the surface, it sounds supportive. It feels like they are taking a load off your shoulders, but real care involves transparency, not gatekeeping. If they start asking for receipts for every small purchase, or if they monitor your bank statements like a hawk, or if they restrict your access to joint accounts, it's not about love anymore. It's about power. Control rarely starts as control, it starts as concern. Slowly but surely, this behavior removes your independence. You find yourself asking for permission to buy a coffee, or explaining why you spent $20 at the grocery store. This creates a parent-child dynamic instead of a partner-partner dynamic. When one person holds all the financial cards, the other person loses their voice in the relationship. If you feel like you have to hide your purchases to avoid an interrogation, you are already in a toxic financial environment. This next one is even more common, and most people ignore it because it feels normal in the heat of romance. Red flag number 3 is unequal effort and hidden resentment. This is the silent killer. It's the one I warned you about. In many relationships, there is a mismatch in how much each person contributes, and I'm not just talking about the dollar amount, I'm talking about the effort. It's when one partner is always the one reaching for the check, always the one paying for the Uber, or always the one covering the extra $20 on the grocery bill because the other person forgot their card. If one partner is constantly carrying the financial load without a clear, agreed-upon plan, resentment starts to grow like mold in the dark. You might not say anything at first because you love them and you want to be generous. But over months and years, that generosity turns into a feeling of being needed. Unspoken imbalance always becomes spoken conflict later. You'll be in the middle of a completely unrelated argument about the dishes, and suddenly you're screaming about who paid for dinner 3 weeks ago. Money and relationships require a balance that both people feel good about. If one person feels like a bank and the other feels like a dependent, the respect in the relationship evaporates. You have to be able to discuss the division of labor and expenses openly, or the silent debt of resentment will eventually bankrupt your emotional connection. Now, this next one is where people lose the most money without even realizing it's happening. Red flag number 4 is lifestyle inflation because of them. This is a trap that catches high earners and low earners alike. It happens when you start overspending just to match your partner's lifestyle or to keep them interested. Maybe they like expensive restaurants, luxury vacations, or high-end clothes. To keep up, you start dipping into your savings or, worse, putting things on a credit card. You feel a constant pressure to keep up because you're afraid of looking cheap cheap or inadequate. This is a psychological trigger that plays on your fear of rejection. But here is the truth. Love should not upgrade your financial stress. If being with someone means you are constantly living at the edge of your means, you are headed for a disaster. This often leads to a cycle of debt and guilt. You feel anxious every time you see your bank balance, but you don't want to admit it to them because you don't want to ruin the vibe. This isn't just about them spending your money. It's about you spending your own money poorly because of their influence. If your partner truly cares about your future, they wouldn't want you to go broke just to impress them. A healthy partner encourages your financial stability. They don't jeopardize it for a weekend of fun. The final red flag is the most subtle, but it decides everything about your long-term success. Red flag number 5 is different financial futures with no alignment. This is about your financial compatibility at the highest level. You might get along great, have the same taste in movies, and love the same food, but if one of you is a lifelong saver and the other is a chronic spender who lives for the moment, you are headed for a head-on collision. You're not just building love, you're building a direction. Most breakups don't happen from single money fights. They happen from a life direction mismatch. If one person wants to live in a modest house and retire at 50, while the other wants a mansion and constant lifestyle upgrades with no plan for tomorrow, the friction will eventually become unbearable. You can't compromise on a life vision. You either want the same things or you don't. I've seen couples who love each other deeply but had to split because one person wanted the security of a large emergency fund and the other wanted to spend every extra cent on new cars and gadgets. This is where relationships quietly split, even if no one says it out loud. You start to realize that your goals are moving in opposite directions, and eventually the gap between you becomes too wide to bridge. Let's quickly recap these because seeing them together clarifies the pattern. First, avoid money talks. Silence protects secrets. Second, financial control disguised as care. Independence lost. Third, unequal effort and latent resentment. Unfairness is slow poison. They cause lifestyle inflation, the expense of belonging. Fifth, separate financial futures. No unified goal. If even one of these sounds familiar in your relationship, pay attention. Ignoring these warnings won't make them go. It will increase costs and suffering. You actually do what? Start honest money conversations early and often. Discuss finances without waiting for a crisis. Share financial expectations up front. Watch their actions, not just their words. Anyone can say they want wealth, but check at their credit card or waiter bill. Remember, money compatibility matters as much as emotional compatibility. Would you marry someone who doesn't share your life goals? Why would you trust someone with different financial values with your financial future? Boundaries are fine. You can say, I can't afford that right now, or I need us to be on the same page about our savings. Anger or guilt tripping are red flags. Which kills relationships fastest? Is it concealed debt, control, or persistent spending pressure? Is there a flag I missed that folks rarely discuss? Leave a remark and let's talk. Your experience could prevent someone from a huge financial blunder. The biggest red flags don't always look like red flags. They look like typical parts of being in love until the bill comes due. Pay attention now to avoid punishment later. See you next time.